we are going to introduce slope, x and y intercepts in the context of linear equations with two variables. Let's start with slope. What is a slope? It's synonymous to slant or inclination. And if you consider this linear equation that I have graphed here, so this horizontal axis could represent one of the variables, for example x. The vertical axis could represent the second variable, for example y. We have this given linear equation here. The slope would be, if I draw a horizontal line, imagine I draw this horizontal line here with the dashed lines. So if this was a horizontal surface, the slope of this linear equation is this angle that it creates with the horizontal line. So this angle is a measure of the slope of this line, the angle that it makes with the horizontal line. That's how you identify the slope on a linear equation that is graphed. Now let's introduce X-intercept. What does intercept mean? Well, intercept, it's synonymous, it's interruption. So when something intercepts something else, it interrupts that thing. X-intercept means when the line of your equation intercepts or interrupts the x-axis. Okay? So this horizontal axis is the x-axis, is where the variable x is represented, and the yellow line is the line of the equation. So where these two meet, which is right here, this is called X-intercept, where the x-axis meets the line of the equation. And quite similarly, the y-intercept is where the y-axis meets the line of the curve. So this thing here is the y-intercept. We can notice that at x-intercept, what is the value of y? Is 0. So at x-intercept, y is always 0. You see, the point lies on the x-axis, so it does not come above or below the x-axis, is right on the x-axis. So if it was here, for example, this will be the value of the y, but it's not there. It's right at the axis, lies on the axis, so the y is 0. The height at that point is 0. On the other hand, at y-intercept, the value of x is 0, because we're not to the right or to the left of the y-axis. So for example, if the point was here, then we will draw a perpendicular line to the x-axis, and at this point will be the x. But that's not the case. The point is here, so the origin here is 0 and 0. Y is 0, x is 0 at here, so our point here is at the 0 point on the x-axis. Okay. Next, let's learn how to find out the slope, the x-intercept or the y-intercept, based on the equation of a linear equation, based on the actual formula, without looking at the graph. How do we find these values? Let's find out. So I'm going to introduce two methods to find the slope of a linear equation. Method number one. Imagine you have a given equation, a linear equation, for example, 3x plus 4y equals 10, something like that. So you can see it's linear, the greatest power of the unknowns is 1, and there are two variables. So that's considered a linear equation with two variables. Method 1 for finding the slope. Obtain 2 points from this equation. What do I mean 2 points? I mean you can draw a table. One column is x, one column is y, and find the 2 rows for this table. The easiest way is to first substitute x as 0. I'm gonna color code this stuff. So let's give 0 to x and find out what y will be. So first I'm going to substitute x as 0. 3 times 0 plus 4y equals 10. Now we have to solve for y, isolate y. So 3 times 0, that's just 0, so 4y equals 10. Now I'm going to divide both sides by 4 so that I can eliminate the 4 that is multiplied by y. So I say 4y divided by 4 equals 10 divided by 4. Now this 4 cancels with this 4. So y equals 10 divided by 4. That's 5 divided by 2, and then 2.5. You can double check that with your calculators. So when x is 0, y is 2.5. That's 1 point from this equation, right? Let's call it point number 1. So this is basically, we have a new column here, is like point, number of the point. So we need another point. We need point number 2 in order to find the slope. So let's substitute something simple. We can now substitute, for example, x as 2. Let's put x as 2. So 3 times 2 plus 4y equals 10. 3 times 2, I'm just going to simplify this. 3 times 2 is 6. So 6 plus 4y equals 10. Now let's step by step isolate y so we can see the value of y. Let's subtract 6 from both sides. 6 from both sides, so 6 plus 4y minus 6 equals 10. Do the same thing to the right hand side. 10 minus 6. So the 6 cancels from both the left hand side, so we have just 4y equals 10 minus 6, that is 4. Now I divide both sides by 4, so we get rid of that multiplication of 4 of y. So we say 4y divided by 4 equals, on the right hand side we have 4 divided by 4. So 4 divided by 4 is just 1, so 1y is just y, equals 4 divided by 4 on the right hand side is also 1. Nice. So when x is 2, y is 1. Perfect. Now we have 2 points from this equation. So this was our original equation. Our step one was to find 2 points. We did that. So let me delete these. Now what do we do with these 2 points to find the slope? That's the question. So here we have 2 points. Points number 1, that's how we show them, by the way. Points number 1 is the x is 0, comma, the y is 2.5. That's how we show them. First we mention the x, then we mention the y, inside parentheses, separated by comma. Point number 2 is x is 2, I'm going to keep the color code here, comma, y is 1. You see? So these are the 2 points. Now step 2, find the slope using this formula. Slope, or sometimes they show it by m, equals rise over run. What does that mean? That means, for example, if you have a graph, rise over run. Rise means how much it has gone up. So this vertical distance, this is rise. And run means how much it has gone to the right or left. So this, for example, if you consider this is 1 point, this is another point, run will be like here, the horizontal distance that the graph has moved. Rise is the vertical distance that it has been moved from point 1 to point 2. Run is the horizontal distance that it has moved from point 1 to point 2. So that's just the illustration of it. But we don't care about the illustration. We just want to find out the slope using the equation. So rise over run, I'm going to use the y in the point 2. So y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. This is the formula. When you have 2 points of any linear equation, using this formula you can find the slope. So for these 2 points, m equals what is y2? So this is point 2. The y in point 2 is 1 minus, what is y1? Point 1 is 2.5. So 1 minus 2.5 divided by rise over run, x2. So x in the point 2 is 2 minus x1, point 1, the x of the point 1 is 0. So 2 minus 0. Now we just solve that fraction and we will have the slope. So the slope equals, on the top, 1 minus 2.5, that's negative 1.5 over 2 minus 0, that's just 2. So now negative 1.5 divided by 2, that's the slope. You can put that in the calculator and you will find out the result is negative 0.75. But the important point is that we found the slope. So that's the method number 1. So we're going to again find the slope. This is method number 2. Step 1. Convert this linear equation, or prepare it, into general form. How does that look like? The general form of linear equations Just like we had a general form for quadratic equation, we also have a general form for linear equations. And that looks like this. Y equals m times x plus b. And once you convert it into this general form, step 2, which is very easy, identify the slope. What is the slope? Is this m. M is multiplied by x. So the factor that is multiplied by x when the linear equation is converted into this format is the slope. That's it. B is just a number. So let's do that. Let's convert this guy into general form of linear equations. So we can see we have to isolate y on one side. So let's do that. Step 1, let's subtract 3x from both sides. So we step by step isolate y. Let's subtract 3x from both sides, and that will give us 3x plus 4y, the left hand side, minus 3x equals 10 minus 3x. Also doing it to the right hand side. So the 3x cancels on the left hand side. We will have 4y equals 10 minus 3x. Now let's divide both sides by 4. Why? Because 4 is multiplied by y on the left hand side. So let's divide both sides by 4 to cancel that 4. So we will have 4y divided by 4 equals 10 minus 3x divided by 4. All of the right hand side gets divided by 4. So this 4 on the left hand side gets cancelled. And we will have, I'm going to delete this for a moment. We will have y equals 10 minus 3x over 4. So we can now simplify this further and write it y equals, so we know this is two fractions basically, 10 divided by 4 we have, and also we have minus 3x divided by 4. So I'm going to just separate them and write them as 10 over 4 minus 3x over 4. That's great. Now let's just change the order, change the space between 10 over 4 and negative 3x over 4, so we make it look like the general form. Y equals negative 3x over 4 plus 10 over 4. Nice. So you can see now m is what is multiplied by x. What is multiplied by x? Is it negative 3 or negative 3 over 4? The entire thing is multiplied by x. And this guy is the b, 10 over 4. But we don't care about b right now, just the m. So the slope is negative 3 over 4, which if you put that into your calculator, you'll see it's negative 0.75. Exactly what we found using method number 1. So in the second way, we can just convert any linear equation with two variables into the general form, and the m, which is the multiplication of x, is the slope of the equation. There are other methods too, but at this stage, these two are enough. Now let's see how to find x-intercept when you're given any linear equation. So what we had here was 3x plus 4y equals 10. Now Again, I'm going to introduce two methods. Method 1. Using the definition of x-intercept, we know that at x-intercept, where is the line of the equation crosses the x-axis, y equals 0. We know that. So if I substitute y equals 0 in this original equation, the x that I'm going to find is the x-intercept. So let's do that. 3 times x plus 4 multiplied by 0 equals 10. So I substitute y as 0, and I'm going to solve for x to find the x-intercept. So 4 times 0 is 0. We get 3x equals 10, dividing both sides by 3 to get rid of the 3 that is multiplied by x on the left hand side. So 3x over 3 equals 10 over 3. 3 cancels with 3 on the left hand side. So we get x equals 10 over 3. That is the x-intercept. At this point, y is 0. The line crosses the x-axis. That's the first method. And the second method, we're going to take advantage of the general form of a linear equation. So we already saw this equation. We converted into general form, and it looks like y equals negative 3 over 4x plus 10 over 4. And this is corresponding to the general equation, which is y equals mx, m is the slope, plus b. B is just this number. Now, doing basically the same, let's set y as 0 in this general form and find the x. So 0 equals mx plus b. I'm going to subtract b from both sides, so it will be negative b on the left hand side, and it will eliminate b from the right hand side. So mx equals b. I'm trying to solve for x. Next, I'm going to divide both sides by m, so I can isolate x. Divide both sides by m. So you get minus b over m. Mx divided by m, that's just x. And that is the x-intercept, because we set y as 0. So we found x. So it means in the general form of the equation, like this, if I divide minus b by m, I should get the x-intercept. Let's try that. Let's try doing that. So x-intercept should equal, what is b in here? We know that b is 10 over 4. Great. So I'm going to say negative 10 over 4 divided by m. What is m? M equals negative 3 over 4. So m is negative 3 over 4. Nice. So if we do this division, we have to find the x-intercept. How do we deal with this kind of divisions? There are two fractions divided by each other. First of all, negative divided by negative, the result is positive. So we don't have to deal with these negatives, because we know negative divided by negative, the result is positive. So basically this is 10 over 4 divided by 3 over 4. I'm going to give you a formula to deal with a fraction divided by a fraction. So when you have, I'm going to write it here. When you have, let's say, a fraction a over b divided by c over d, you can write it as this. You can say remote times remote, that is a times d, that are far apart from each other, a times d, divided by close times close, b times c. So you can convert it into this. Let's do that. So remote times remote, I'm going to write this here. 10 times 4, x equals 10 times 4 divided by close times close, 4 times 3. Excellent. Now this 4 on the top cancels with the 4 at the bottom, and you get 10 over 3. That's exactly the x-intercept that we got here using the second method. So if you receive a linear equation in the general format, immediately you know the x-intercept is, you can find it using this formula, minus b over m. Great. Now let's go and finding the y-intercept for linear equations with two variables. So we had 3x plus 4y equals 10. That is our equation. So what happens at y-intercept? The equation, the line, crosses the y-axis. So when it crosses the y-axis, that means x is 0. Y-intercept means x is 0. So to find the y-intercept, we substitute in this equation x equals 0 and we find y, what y is. Let's do that. So I say 3 multiplied by 0 plus 4y, we don't know what y is, we want to find it out, equals 10. 3 times 0, that's 0. 4 times y equals 10. Dividing both sides by 4 to get rid of the 4 that is multiplied by y. So I get y equals 10 over 4. That's it. That is the y-intercept. That is the point that the equation crosses. That is the point at which the equation crosses the y-axis. So that's one method. In the second method, we're going to basically find a general formula for the y-intercept. So we are going to consider the equation in the general form, which is y equals m, which is the slope, times x plus b. So we have already turned this equation 3x plus 4y equals 10 into the general form. It was y equals negative 3 over 4 times x plus 10 over 4, right? You remember that. Now again, let's substitute x as 0. So in the general form, if I substitute x as 0, I will get y equals m multiplied by 0 plus b. So m times 0, or any number times 0, m is the slope, which any number times 0 is 0. So this term is just 0. So you get y equals b. Y equals, if I also keep the color code, y equals b. What does that mean? The intercept is just the b. So once you converted the equation into general form, the lone number here, the b, 10 over 4, is just the y-intercept. That's it. You see? That's the y-intercept. So any linear equation with two variables, you write it in general form, which is y equals the slope times x plus b. If you convert it into general form, the b, the lone number, is the y-intercept. Immediately you can tell. So to summarize, if we have a linear equation, this is the general format, y equals mx plus b. If you convert the linear equation into the general format, you can immediately tell the y-intercept, which is y equals b. You can immediately tell the x-intercept, which is x equals negative b divided by the slope m. And for the slope, I already said it, when it's in general form, the slope is m. Or you can, alternatively, you can try to find 2 points from this equation, 2 values for x, 2 values for what? For y. So x1, you give 1 value to x, and you find what the corresponding y will be. That's point number 1. And you need another point, x2, and you will find y2. And then here's how you find the slope. M equals y2 minus y1. That is the rise, how far the linear equation has vertically advanced. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So if you have 2 points from any given linear equation, you can also find the slope. You even don't need the equation, just 2 points, put them in this formula, you'll find the slope. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you have any questions or comments.